She called my love for my son a cheap trinket and had me dragged from his funeral. She thought the old contractor was finished. Broken. She was about to find out I don't just build foundations, I demolish them too. If you're listening to this, subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. It helps to know I'm not alone in this world. My name is George Peterson, and this is the story of how I lost my son and how I fought for his legacy. The church smelled wrong. Lilies and expensive perfume. It was thick, suffocating. My son Michael hated lilies. He always said they were funeral flowers, and here we were, drowning in them. I stood in the back. My heart felt like a lead weight in my chest. I hadn't cried yet. I couldn't. It felt like if I started, the dam would break, and the whole world would wash away. I had to hold it together, for him. But holding it together was harder than I ever imagined. I looked around the massive cathedral. It was packed, men in sharp, $1,000 suits. Women with tight, practiced smiles. These were Michael's new friends. Lisa's friends. I didn't recognize half of them. They were strangers in a life my son had built far away from me. It felt like I was watching a movie about someone else's life. My reflection caught in the polished brass of a candlestick. I looked old, tired, worn out. 65 years running my construction business, building houses with my own hands. It puts miles on you, hard miles. But this grief, this sudden, violent loss of my boy, it aged me 10 years in a week. I felt hollow, empty, and the emptiness was terrifying. Michael had done well. His software company exploded. He was smart, always the smartest kid in the room. But the higher he climbed, the further he seemed to get from me. And Lisa, his wife, she was the ladder he used. A beautiful, ruthless ladder. I watched her now, wondering if she ever truly loved him. I saw her in the front pew. Lisa, dressed in black that probably cost more than my truck. Her back was ramrod straight, her chin high. She didn't look like a grieving widow. She looked like a queen holding court. Mr. Davis, the family lawyer, sat beside her. He whispered in her ear. She nodded sharply. A business transaction, not a goodbye. My stomach turned. Something felt deeply wrong about this whole scene. My daughter, Sarah, Michael's sister, squeezed my arm. Her hand was shaking. "Dad, are you okay?" she whispered. "I'm here, sweetheart," I mumbled. The words felt heavy in my mouth. "She didn't even look at us when we came in," Sarah said, her voice tight with anger. "She acts like we're strangers, but the real betrayal was yet to come." "And look," Sarah whispered, pointing subtly. On the display next to Michael's casket, a digital slideshow played. Photos on an endless loop. Michael and Lisa on a yacht. Smiling. Michael and Lisa in Paris. Laughing. Michael and Lisa in Paris. Laughing. Michael and Lisa in Paris. Laughing. Michael and Lisa in Paris. Lisa's parents at some gala. Not a single picture of me. Not one of his mother before she passed. Not one of Sarah. It was like we never existed. We had been erased, wiped clean from his history. The service began. The priest's words washed over me. A great businessman, a visionary, a devoted husband. They talked about the man in the expensive suit. The CEO, the millionaire. They didn't talk about the boy who used to help me sand drywall on Saturdays, covered in dust, grinning. They didn't talk about the teenager who rebuilt an old Chevy engine just to see if I could. They were burying a stranger Lisa had created. When the eulogies were done, the funeral director made the announcement. Close family could pay their final respects before the casket was closed, forever. It was time. My last chance to say goodbye. My legs felt heavy as I started walking, but I had something important to give him. I reached into my jacket pocket. My fingers brushed against the smooth, cool wood. It was a small wooden bird, a cardinal. Michael and I used to carve them together. It was our thing. The very first one we made, when he was 7, was terrible. Lopsided and rough. But he was so proud of it, he kept it on his desk until the day he died. I wanted him to have this last one. It was the best I'd ever made. A piece of home, a piece of me. I walked down the aisle. The silence in the church was heavy, suffocating. I could feel the eyes on me. Hundreds of them. The old contractor in the cheap suit. the grease still under my nails, no matter how hard I scrubbed. I didn't fit in with the polished marble and the designer clothes. I was a smudge on their perfect picture, and they wanted me gone. I reached the casket. Michael looked like he was sleeping, but the stillness was wrong. He was always moving, always thinking. His mind was a restless engine. I leaned over. My hand trembled. The grief hit me then, a wave threatening to pull me under. "I love you, son," I whispered. My voice cracked. I went to place the wooden bird in his hand. A final connection. A hand clamped down on my wrist, hard. Nails dug into my skin. I looked up, startled. It was Lisa. Her eyes were like ice, blue and frigid. "What do you think you're doing, George?" she hissed. Her voice was low, but sharp enough to cut glass. The expensive perfume was overwhelming up close. "It's a cardinal," I said, confused by her hostility. The pain in my wrist was sharp. "We used to make them. I want him to have it. This is a dignified service," she snapped, tugging at my wrist. "We are not cluttering his casket with your cheap trinkets. Take it away. Now, cheap trinkets." The words hit me like a slap. My blood ran cold. "It's not a trinket. It's for Michael." I tried to pull my wrist free, but her grip tightened. She was surprisingly strong. "Everything here is perfect," she said, her voice rising now. The mask of the grieving widow was slipping. "I will not have you ruining it." Step back. The silence in the church deepened. People were starting to stare. The whispers started. I felt the humiliation burning in my chest. "Lisa, please," I begged. My voice was quiet. Desperate. "He was my son. He was my husband," she shouted. The mask shattered completely, revealing the cold steel beneath. "And I am in charge now. You are nothing here." She paused, letting the words hang in the air. The venom in her voice was shocking. She leaned closer. "You are always an embarrassment to him," she spat. "With your dirty hands and your small-town ideas. He was ashamed of you." "An embarrassment? Michael? Ashamed of me? Lies." She always smiled when she lied. I thought of the endless hours, the sacrifices, the risks I took for him. "How dare you?" I said. My voice was shaking, not with sadness, but with a sudden, terrifying rage, a cold rage I hadn't felt in years. "How dare you speak of him that way? Speak to me that way. Speak to me that way. Speak to me that way. Speak to me that way." Lisa didn't flinch. She didn't even blink. She raised her hand and snapped her fingers. It was a gesture of pure arrogance, like she was summoning a servant. Two large men in black suits appeared from the side aisle. Security. She had hired security for her husband's funeral, against his own father. "Escort this man out," she ordered, pointing at me, like I was trash. A dismissive gesture, taking out the garbage. The security guards hesitated. One of them, a younger man I recognized. Frank, his father used to work for me, looked deeply uncomfortable. "Ma'am," Frank said, shifting his weight. "This is Mr. Peterson, Michael's father." Lisa stepped closer to me. Her face was contorted with fury. It was a face I had seen glimpses of over the years. Whenever I questioned her spending, whenever I advised Michael to be cautious. The steel beneath the velvet. "Get out," she shrieked. The sound echoed off the stained glass. "I don't care if you're his father. Get him out." The two guards grabbed my arms, gently at first, then tighter when I resisted. I struggled, but they were strong. They started pulling me back down the aisle. "Lisa, you can't do this," I shouted, desperate. The wooden bird was still clutched in my hand. "Watch me," she spat. They dragged me past the pews, past the faces of the rich and powerful. Everyone watched me, yet everyone pretended not to see. They looked down at their hands. They studied the architecture. No one met my eye. No one helped. They were her people, and I was an intruder, a trespasser in my son's life. The silence was their verdict. Guilty. They pushed me through the heavy oak doors of the church. I stumbled out onto the cold stone steps. The December wind hit me hard. The doors slammed shut behind me. The sound echoed like a gunshot. Final, absolute, I stood there, alone. The wooden bird clutched so tightly in my hand that the sharp edges of the wings dug into my palm. I could feel the blood trickling down my wrist where Lisa had grabbed me. The humiliation burned hotter than the grief. She had taken my son from me. Not just in death. She had started taking him years ago. And now she had taken my goodbye. I looked at the grand facade of the church. It was imposing, cold, unwelcoming. This was the world Michael had chosen. A world of cold surfaces and colder hearts. And I was locked out. I sat heavily on the steps. My legs couldn't support me anymore. The strength drained out of me, leaving only a profound emptiness. How did it come to this? How did my bright, loving boy end up here? The memories rushed back, uninvited, painful. I thought back to when Michael first met Lisa. 10 years ago, she was a marketing executive at a rival firm. Beautiful, ambitious, utterly charming when she wanted to be. Michael was smitten, blinded. I had reservations from the start. It wasn't just her expensive tastes. It was the hardness around her eyes. A way she looked at our simple house. My workshop filled with tools and sawdust. Thinly veiled contempt. She didn't see a home. She saw a teardown. I remember sitting on the porch with Michael. He was excited. "She makes me want to be better, Dad," he told me. The city lights reflected in his eyes. "Better or just richer, Mike?" I asked, trying to keep my tone light. He got angry, defensive. "You don't understand. The world is changing. Your way of doing business, slow and steady, it's obsolete. Lisa sees the big picture. I didn't push it. I wanted him to be happy. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I was just an old man afraid of change. But I wasn't wrong. When Michael decided to launch his software company, he needed capital. A lot of it. He had the brains. The vision, but ideas don't pay salaries. He went to the banks. It was risky. A startup. They offered terrible terms. Sharks smelling blood in the water. So he came to me. I didn't hesitate. Not for a second. He was my son. My legacy. I remortgaged the house my wife and I had shared for 30 years. I cashed out my retirement savings. Every penny. I liquidated the construction business I had spent my life building. The trucks, the equipment, all of it. I gave him everything. 500,000. My entire life's work, reduced to a single check. "I'll pay you back, Dad, with interest," he promised. He was vibrating with energy, ready to conquer the world. "You don't owe me anything, Michael," I told him. "Just make it work, and be smart. Don't let the money change who you are." He hugged me tight. That was the last time he felt like my boy. We set up the company structure with Mr. Davis. The lawyer, Davis, was sharp. He knew the investment was my entire life. He advised a specific arrangement, a safety net. I didn't want to control Michael. I trusted him, but I didn't want to end up penniless if things went wrong. And deep down, maybe I didn't trust Lisa. So we created a trust, the Peterson Family Trust. The trust owned the majority shares of the company, 51%. I was the sole trustee, the sole beneficiary. Michael owned the remaining 49%. He ran the day-to-day. He was the CEO, the face of the company. To the outside world, it was his. But on paper, the control belonged to me. It was supposed to be a safety net, a formality. I never intended to use it. I never thought I would have to, until today. As the company grew, Lisa's influence grew with it. She quit her job and joined Michael, Chief Marketing Officer. That's when things really changed. She convinced Michael to move the headquarters from Echotube office park to a flashy downtown skyscraper. The rent was astronomical. "Image is everything, George," she told me once, during a tense Sunday dinner at their new penthouse. She swirled her wine, looking down at the city lights. She pushed him to expand, faster, bigger, take on massive debts. "Your generation is so afraid of risk," she said. "Risk is fine, Lisa," I replied, keeping my voice even. "Recklessness is not. You need a solid foundation before you build a skyscraper." She laughed. A cold, dismissive sound. "Foundations are boring, George. We're building an empire," I tried to warn Michael. Slow down, son. You're overextended. The overhead is killing you. But he wouldn't listen. Lisa had convinced him I was holding him back, that I was obsolete. The conflict escalated when I questioned a heirs transfer. $1 million to a marketing firm Lisa had hired. A firm run by her old college friend, Elena Vance. I recognized the name. Elena was just as ruthless as Lisa. Are we getting our money's worth, Michael? This seems excessive, I asked him during a rare visit to his office. Elena's firm is charging triple the standard rate. He exploded, accused me of undermining his authority, of not trusting his judgment. The trust was pushing my son away, so I backed off. I let him run it his way. It was the biggest mistake in my life. Slowly, the Sunday dinners stopped. The phone calls became less frequent, brief, transactional. When I visited the office, I had to make an appointment. I had to sign in at the front desk. In the company I financed, I signed in at the front desk. In the company I financed. I felt a growing sense of dread. Lisa was isolating him, building a wall between him and his family. With Elena's help, I remember the last argument we had, 6 months ago. I confronted Michael about the company's mounting debt. I had seen the quarterly reports. They were bleeding money. You're building a house of cards, son, I told him. One strong wind, and it all comes crashing down. He looked tired, stressed. His face was pale. I have it under control, Dad, he insisted. No, you don't. Lisa and Elena have it under control, and they're driving you into the ground, he snapped. Don't you dare talk about my wife that way, he shouted. You're just jealous of my success. You couldn't handle that I surpassed you. Jealous? My heart broke. He told me to leave. He told me he didn't need my advice. Or my interference. That was the last time I saw him alive. And then, the accident. A slippery road. Rain. A late night coming back from a business dinner with Lisa and Elena. The police said he lost control of the car. Hit a tree. Just like that, my boy was gone. Lisa and Elena walked away without a scratch. I was destroyed. The first few days were a blur of grief and numbness. I couldn't process it. But Lisa, she was focused. Sharp, efficient. The day after Michael died, she called Mr. Davis. She started making arrangements, not just for the funeral, but for the company. She assumed that as Michael's wife, she inherited everything, his 49% shares, the penthouse, the cars, the lifestyle, and she assumed she would take over as CEO. She never knew about the trust. Michael had asked me years ago if he should tell her. It might make her feel insecure, he said, always protective of her feelings. Like I don't trust her. I told him it was his decision. It was his marriage. He decided not to tell her. He never imagined he would die young. He never imagined what Lisa was capable of. He only saw the charming surface, not the ruthless ambition underneath. The church doors opened again, pulling me back to the present. The cold reality. Sarah rushed out. Her face was streaked with tears. Dad, oh Dad, I am so sorry, she cried, throwing her arms around me. I held her tight. It's okay, sweetheart, I said, my voice rough. It's not okay, she said, pulling back, her eyes blazing with fury. She is disgusting. You won't believe what happened after they dragged you out. While you were being dragged out, Mr. Davis made an announcement, Sarah said, her voice trembling. I waited, dread pooling in my stomach. He announced that Lisa would be stepping in as interim CEO of the company, effective immediately, and that Elena Vance would be the new chief operating officer. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. They can't do that, I whispered. They just did, Sarah said. They're already talking about restructuring, firing the executive team. Michael trusted Dad. They're going to dismantle everything Michael built, everything you built. This was the moment. The turning point. I had been passive, letting grief paralyze me, letting Lisa push me around, erase me from my son's life. No more. I looked at the wooden bird in my hand. The cardinal. Michael would have hated this. He valued loyalty. He valued family. He would not have wanted his legacy destroyed by their greed. I stood up. The stone in my chest was gone. replaced by a cold, hard clarity. I was no longer just a grieving father. I was the man who had built everything from nothing. I was the man who understood structure, foundations, leverage, and I was the man who controlled 51% of the company. "Where is Mr. Davis?" I asked. My voice was calm, steady. The voice I used when managing a complex construction site. "He's still inside," Sarah said, surprised by the change in my tone. "I need to talk to him. Dad, he's working for Lisa now." "No," I said, walking towards the side exit where the limousines were parked. "He's working for the trust, and I am the trust." I waited by the exit. I watched as the guests started to filter out. They glanced at me nervously. The man who caused the scene. The embarrassment. They hurried to their expensive cars. If this has kept you on the edge of your seat so far, please hit the like button, and don't forget to subscribe. It helps our channel grow and bring more stories like this to light. It was that simple act of defiance that started everything. Lena Vance walked out, her heels clicking sharply on the stone. She saw me and smirked. Cruel, knowing smile. She thought they had won. Finally, Mr. Davis emerged. He saw me and stopped. He adjusted his tie. A nervous habit. "George," he said, his voice cautious, "I am deeply sorry for your loss, and for the unpleasantness inside." "The unpleasantness was your client's doing, Mr. Davis," I said, keeping my voice low. Controlled. "Lisa is emotional," he said. Announcing her as CEO was perhaps hasty, but she felt it was necessary to stabilize the company. "Did you tell her about the trust, Mr. Davis?" I asked. He paled slightly. "George, the structure of the company is complex. Lisa is the largest individual shareholder, but not the majority shareholder." I corrected him. "The Peterson Family Trust holds 51%, and I am the sole trustee," Mr. Davis sighed. "Yes, that is correct, but the trust has been inactive for years." Lisa assumed wrong," I interrupted. "She assumed I was a weak old man she could push aside." I stepped closer to him. "She humiliated me, destroyed me at my son's funeral. She called my love for him a cheap trinket. She and Elena Vance are planning to tear down what I finance and what my son built." "What do you want to do, George?" Mr. Davis asked, looking nervous. He knew the trust agreement was ironclad. "I want you to activate the trust," I said. "I am invoking my authority as the majority shareholder, and," his eyes darted around, "and I am removing Lisa Peterson as interim CEO, and Elena Vance as COO, effective immediately." Mr. Davis hesitated. "George, that will cause chaos. This kind of instability. The stock price will plummet." "Instability is better than destruction," I said. "They will ruin it." I looked him straight in the eye. "You have a legal obligation to the trust, Mr. Davis. Not to Lisa. Do your job, or I will find someone who will." He nodded slowly, defeated. "Very well, I will need to make some calls." "Do it now," I said. Mr. Davis pulled out his phone. He walked a few feet away and started dialing. I watched him. My heart was pounding in my chest, but my hands were steady. I had spent my life calculating risks, managing projects. Lisa thought I was obsolete. She was wrong. Old wood burns hottest. Mr. Davis spoke on the phone for several minutes. His face grew grim. He hung up and walked back to me. "It's done," he said, his voice flat. "The board has been informed. Lisa's and Elena's access to the company accounts has been frozen. An emergency meeting has been scheduled for tomorrow morning. You will be appointed as the acting CEO." It happened that fast. One phone call, the power shifted. Just then, the church doors opened one last time. Lisa emerged, accompanied by the funeral director, and Elena Vance was right behind her. Lisa was smiling, a triumphant, satisfied smile. She looked like she had just closed the biggest deal of her life. She walked down the steps, ignoring me completely. She reached the sidewalk and turned to the funeral director. "Everything was perfect," she said, her voice loud enough for me to hear. "Send the final invoice to the company accountant. Expedited processing." "Actually, Miss Peterson," the funeral director said, looking uncomfortable, We usually require the final payment on the day of the service. Fine, Lisa said, dismissively. She pulled out a sleek black credit card, the company platinum card. Charge it to this. The funeral director took the card and walked to his limousine. Lisa stood there, basking in her victory. Elena whispered something to her, and they both laughed. A cold, cruel sound. They glanced at me. A look of pure contempt. The funeral director returned. He looked pale, troubled. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Peterson," he stammered. "The card has been declined." Lisa froze. The smirk vanished. "Declined? That's impossible. Try it again." "I tried it 3 times, ma'am." "It's declined. Authorization revoked." Elena stepped forward. "Let me try mine." She pulled out her own company card. The funeral director tried it. "Declined as well, ma'am." Lisa snatched her card back. There must be some mistake. She pulled out her phone and started typing furiously. Checking her email, I watched as her face changed. The color drained from her cheeks. Her eyes widened in shock. Then horror. Elena looked at the phone screen and gasped. They had just received the email from Mr. Davis. The notification that their authority was revoked, that their access to company assets was frozen. Lisa looked up slowly. Her eyes met mine. She saw Mr. Davis standing next to me, and she understood. The realization hit her like a physical blow. She stumbled back, her composure shattered. The queen was dethroned. "What have you done?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "I protected my son's legacy," I said. My voice was cold. Even. She ran towards me, her high heels clicking frantically on the stone. Desperation replaced arrogance. "George, please," she begged. Tears welled up in her eyes. Real tears this time. Tears of panic. "You can't do this to me. I loved Michael. This company is all I have left of him." Elena stood frozen, watching her empire crumble. "You didn't love him," I said, the words cutting through the cold air. "You loved what he gave you. The money, the power, the status, and you disrespected him by disrespecting his family. No, you don't understand," she cried. "I worked so hard for this. I pushed him to be successful. It was for us." "You pushed him until he broke," I said. "And then you tried to throw me away like garbage." She grabbed my arm, her nails digging into my skin, desperate, pleading. "George, please, I beg you. Don't take it away. I'll do anything. I'll share the control. We can run the company together." I looked at her. I saw the greed, the ambition, the utter lack of empathy. I gently removed her hand from my arm. "Too late," I said. I turned away from her. Sarah took my arm, and we started walking towards my old Ford F-150. "What will happen to her?" Sarah asked. "She still inherits Michael's 49%. I said. "She won't be poor, but she won't be in control. She won't have the power she craved." As we reached the truck, I heard a raw, broken sob. Lisa had sunk to the ground on the church steps. Ruined, alone. Elena had already walked away, abandoning her friend when the money dried up. I opened the truck door and climbed in. I went in, the wooden bird on the dashboard, the cardinal, a symbol of love, loyalty. "Let's go home, Dad," Sarah said. I started the engine. The familiar rumble was comforting, solid, real. I didn't look back. I had a company to run, a legacy to protect, and a massive fight ahead of me. The next morning, I walked into the headquarters of Peterson Technologies. The flashy office Lisa had insisted on. Glass and steel. Everywhere. It felt cold. Impersonal. The employees were gathered in the main hall, whispering nervously. They recognized me. I walked to the front of the room. The board members were seated at a table. Mr. Davis nodded at me. "My name is George Peterson," I said. My voice was strong and clear. "I am Michael's father, and I am the acting CEO." I saw relief in the eyes of the employees, but I also saw something else. Fear. The company was in trouble. I could feel it. My first day was a nightmare. The company was overextended, just as I had feared. The debt was staggering. We were bleeding money. I called a meeting with the executive team. Most of them were Lisa's hires. Marketing people, image consultants. They looked at me with contempt. But one person was different. Ethan Reed, Michael's co-founder and chief technology officer. He looked tired. Defeated. He had dark circles under his eyes. "Ethan," I said, "tell me the truth. How bad is it?" Ethan hesitated. Glancing at the others, "In private," I added. We went to Michael's office. Lisa had already started redecorating it.
Ethan closed the door. "George, we are 6 weeks away from bankruptcy." The words hit me hard. Bankruptcy. My son's dream. My life savings gone.
"Why?" I asked. "The revenue was strong. The spending was stronger," Ethan said. "Lisa and Elena insisted on everything being top of the line. But that's not the worst part. The real betrayal was still waiting in the shadows." He pulled out a flash drive. I started looking into the finances after Michael died. Something felt wrong. Lisa was pushing for a quick sale of the company. An acquisition. She was planning this even before Michael's accident, Ethan said, his voice low. A cold chill went down my spine. Planning a takeover. While my son was still alive. "There's more," Ethan said. "I found irregularities in the accounting. Large transfers to offshore accounts, routed through Elena Vance's marketing firm. The deeper betrayal. Lisa wasn't just incompetent. She was a thief. She was stealing from the company. Stealing from her husband. Stealing from me. I needed proof. I called Mr. Davis. I need a full forensic audit of the company's finances." Now, Davis hesitated. "George, that's expensive, and it will attract attention." "Do it," I said. I didn't care about the cost. I cared about the truth. A few days later, the auditors arrived. Among them was a young accountant, Amanda Chen. Sharp, detail-oriented. She wore glasses and rarely smiled. She was the one who found the smoking gun. "Mr. Peterson," she said, showing me the documents. Her voice was clinical. "We found a pattern. Over the last 2 years, Lisa Peterson and Elena Vance authorized transfers totaling $5 million to a shell corporation registered in the Cayman Islands, routed through Vance Marketing. $5 million. The money that could have saved the company. The money they stole while pushing Michael to the brink. I had to make tough choices. I cut the flashy expenses. I moved the headquarters back to the original office park. I focused on the core product, the software Michael had developed. I used my experience from running my construction business. Quality work, honest dealings, respecting your people, slow and steady. I needed help. People I could trust. I called my old foreman, Jake Hammer Thompson. A big man, rough around the edges, but loyal to the bone. "Jake, I need your help," I said. Jake came to the office the next day. He looked around the tech company, skeptical. "What do you need, boss?" he asked. "I need you to help me rebuild this company. The foundation is rotten. I need someone to watch my back." Jake nodded. "I'm in." Lisa didn't go down without a fight. She sued the trust, claimed I was mentally incompetent, claimed I had coerced Michael into the agreement. She and Elena launched a smear campaign in the media, the grieving widow fighting against the greedy father-in-law, but the trust agreement was ironclad, and the proof of their embezzlement was undeniable. We confronted Lisa and Elena with the evidence. Mr. Davis, Amanda Chen, and I, in the boardroom. They denied everything. Blamed Michael, blamed the accountants, blamed me. But when we threatened criminal charges, when we showed them the wire transfers with their digital signatures, they cracked. Elena broke first. She turned on Lisa, trying to save herself. They agreed to a settlement. They returned the stolen money. Lisa sold her 49% shares to an outside investor, at a steep discount. I never saw them again. I heard they both faced charges later, but I didn't follow the details. They were out of my life. It took 2 years. 2 years of hard work, but we turned the company around. We stabilized the finances. We launched the new product line Michael had been developing. The company was stronger than ever. Ethan took over as CEO. I remained as chairman of the board. Jake stayed on as head of facilities. Amanda Den became our CFO. One evening I was working late in Michael's old office. I had kept most of his things as they were. His favorite books, his diagrams on the whiteboard. The smell of sawdust and machine oil still lingered faintly in my memory. Sarah came in. She was now managing the human resources department. She was good at it. "You're working too hard, Dad," she said, placing a cup of coffee on my desk. "Just finishing up," I said. She looked around the office. "Michael would be so proud of you, Dad, of what you did, of what you saved." "I hope so, sweetheart." "I really do." "He would also be heartbroken by what Lisa did," she said. "He really loved her." "I know," I said. "But he didn't really know her. He saw what he had to see." I paused. "We can't change the past. We can only protect the future." I opened the desk drawer and pulled out the wooden bird. The cardinal. I looked at it for a long time. The grief never truly goes away. It just becomes a part of you, a scar that reminds you of what you lost. But the pain was no longer sharp and unbearable. It was a dull ache, softened by the knowledge that I had done right by my son. I had faced betrayal and greed. I had been humiliated and disrespected. But I had not broken. I had protected my family, my legacy, my dignity. I placed the bird on the desk, next to the lopsided one Michael had carved when he was 7, a pair of cardinals, together. "Let's go home, Sarah," I said. We walked out of the office together, leaving the lights on. The company was safe. Michael's legacy was secure. And I, the old contractor with the dirty hands and the small-town ideas, had proven that some things are timeless. Honesty, integrity, and the fierce, protective love of a father. Thanks for listening. If this story resonated with you, please rate it in the comments and don't forget to subscribe. Your support means the world. Duke, and your time matters.